Welcome to Alive in Writing, a podcast on troubleshooting life as a writer.
I'm Shatona Habig.
I'm April Heyman.
And I'm C.R. Rowanson. We're here.
We're alive.
And we're writing. And today we're writing about April's writing.
Whatever.
I was trying to do this fun little twisty thing, and then the twisty thing was failing before I could even get it out.
April, you like writing. Why for?
Is it the punctuation?
No, but I do like punctuation quite a bit, actually.
Okay. Here's a question I have. It's a great question that I like to ask writers. What is the first book you remember falling in love with?
So, I remember having, when I was really little, my dad went to SIU in Carbondale, and we lived in this little apartment. I can remember the whole layout of the apartment, but we had a stack of comic books on top of our dresser, and we must have read them, or at least looked at the pictures. I was like 4 at the time, so I probably didn't read them so much as looked at pictures. But I remember that, and then the next really clear memory I have is first grade, Mrs. Fletcher teaching us to read, and then the summer between first and second grade, I received a package, and I never got packages, but Mom gave it to me, and it was from Mrs. Fletcher, and it was filled with chapter books, and it was all about horses, and gosh, I love those books.
Every girl loves her horses at some point in her
Yes, life. Exactly. So I read those, and then and then King of the Wind was in there as well, and it's a fabulous book. Actually, my youngest son is reading it right now.
Yeah, I'm not
he really
familiar
likes
with
it.
that one. What's that one about?
It is about the Godolphin stallion. He was the foundation stallion for thoroughbreds, actually, and it is a novelization of the background of the Godolphin. And I loved Arabians Forever.
I remember reading it, but I don't remember the story.
I loved it. And then that moved me into Misty of Chincoteague, and then Bridie of the Grand Canyon, which are all about horses or equines of some kind. And then the Black Stallion.
The Stallion books.
Which is like, 5 or 6 books long. And
right. Walter Farley?
Yeah, Walter Farley.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yep, and then...
But I got those after I watched the movie, and then I read all the books.
No, because my mom had all the books, and so she gave those to us, because she actually had a horse when she was a kid, so... Which is probably where I got my horse crazies from.
So the Black Stallion series was one of your first favorite series?
Yes, the Black Stallion series was one of my first favorite series.
Okay, that's kind of funny, because one of my first favorite series was the Black Cauldron series.
Oh, I like the Black Cauldron, too, but I really love Black Stallion. But I also liked Encyclopedia Brown. For those who remember Encyclopedia Brown.
Hey,
Clark doesn't.
Mysteries are good.
Mysteries.
Always the mystery.
He was a 6th grade sleuth, is what he was, and he would solve these problems that at the time they just astounded me. And now I look back on it, and it's mostly just wordplay, and you can see where the clue is in the content really easily. But back then, man, I was just always impressed that he figured it out in the end.
Gets down to experience
every
time.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It really does.
But I really love those books. Yeah. And then 6th or 7th grade, my mom had a book called The White Dragon of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. And I read that as well. And probably shouldn't have let me read it because it has some adult content in it.
But it's so good.
It was really good.
What is it with these moms?
I
don't know. My mom gave me V.C. Andrews at 13.
Yeah.
What was she thinking? She wasn't.
I really loved Anne McCaffrey. You know what's really funny, or not funny, but really cool, is that right after my husband and I got married, we had gotten our first computer, and I discovered that you could email authors. And so I had been reading Anne McCaffrey's newest series, and so I emailed her. I actually had her email address at one time, so I emailed her and asked her letting her know that I really enjoyed her book and when the next one was coming out. And she emailed me back.
Wow. Yeah, you never told us that.
Yeah, right?
Surprise. No, really. Really, it's a true story. I still have it somewhere buried deep in my email.
In the archives.
In the archives.
So, did any of these make you want to write?
You know, it's funny. It's never like one specific moment that made me want to write.
Oh,
I
so,
always
unlike Shatona,
wrote.
Yeah.
Shatona explained in deep sensory detail that one moment that made her want to be a writer.
So no salt breezes.
No salt breezes. No, I just always told stories. I was always had a journal, always writing, and I think it went by the wayside quite a bit when I went into college. I wrote quite a bit in college because I have a degree in art history, but it wasn't fiction.
That I tell myself that that's pretty standard because, you know, the same thing happened to me as I read through high school and then college hit, and not so much.
I skipped college, so
Well, then your vote doesn't count.
that's what I was going to say. I don't get to interject into this conversation. I think I should go home now.
So what's one of your favorite parts about being a writer?
I know. Oh.
What is it, Shatona?
Pens and paper and stationery.
I would have guessed research, but hey,
that's number 2. But I think if she had to choose, man, she's
I'd
not
always
giving up her pens.
I'm not giving up my pens.
Okay.
I always have an encyclopedia.
Right? I wish we could show you her mic stand is an encyclopedia.
I always have something on hand. Encyclopedia, dictionary, you name it, I got it.
And a stack of notebooks.
And a stack of notebooks.
And half a dozen fountain pens.
Yes. Well, no, I have more fountain pens than that.
Well, I
but
meant
yes.
on you.
Oh, on me. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So-
half a dozen on me.
So, what is it you love so much about pens, and why is that part of being a writer? Like, how does that mesh for you?
So, fountain pens are a culmination of thousands of years of storytelling.
Yeah.
Being able to, so we started with oral storytelling, and eventually our words got put down on something.
Pictorial came next, right?
Pictorial, and then
Then something
and then
came
something,
next.
but
And then something after that, and then there was writing.
and then hieroglyphics, and then they wrote it on papyrus, and then we went to parchment and vellum, and you had iron gall ink, which is what our
pens, quill pens.
Right. Our Constitution's actually written with iron gall ink.
It is. And you can still get it.
Yes, you can. Actually, I have some.
Oh, the gall of them writers.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Sorry, I couldn't
Iron
help myself.
And you can actually make iron gall ink. It's not that hard. You just have to have the oak galls from walnut trees. Anyway, it's like this incredibly long, wonderful lineage of history we have in a piece of really fabulous engineering.
She's an art. See the art? History. See the history major. It shows up.
It shows up in everything I do, unfortunately. So, and not only that, but all of the great writers, they always used pen and paper. If it was only to take down their thoughts when they were not at a typewriter or a computer, depending on which author you're thinking about.
So how do you use pens? Because I don't.
Right.
He's like, just give me something to scribble with until I can get to my device.
Pretty much.
Right. So
Give me my clicky things.
I don't handwrite my novels. I can't. My hands cramp up about after an hour, if not sooner, like way sooner than that, regardless of how ergonomic the pen is. I do take notes. I write. I have pen pals, so I write to them as well, which was where my stationery comes in. But I have lots and lots of notebooks, and I take notes, and each book gets their own notebook, and I have a writer's notebook.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
And it's fun stuff. And
I have it here. I'm just going to steal it.
no, you don't get to steal my notebook.
No stealing her stationery.
She's
real quick on that.
Yeah, no kidding.
She is
I'll tackle you before you hit the door.
So are there any other like really major things about writing that you just you just love that make you so glad you are a writer?
You are so trying to get me to do the research thing. Okay, so I really love research. Well,
You do.
I do love research. So I am an information junkie. I win at Jeopardy.
Yeah, me too. Shocker,
I'm
right?
I don't.
I love to know things. I don't know how you can't not want to know. And I'm not talking about like I'm more of a broad and an inch down rather than narrow and deep. I like having a very broad knowledge of a lot of different things. They inform my writing, but I also find it interesting.
So two random side notes. I actually looked this up recently. The jack of all trades is actually, that's often misquoted. We usually say jack of all trades is master of none. The full quote is a jack of all trades is master than none, but oftentimes is better than a master of one.
Yes.
Which
Yes,
I didn't
heard
know
that.
that was a thing. That's really cool.
I didn't realize that was the full quote.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that have full quotes, like, great minds think alike.
But something I'm glad you brought up is as I started writing, before I was getting pretty focused in the stuff that I like to learn about, but since I started writing, all of a sudden every aspect of the world became more interesting, and it was just like, rainbow. No, everything just became cool because I could use it in my writing.
Yeah.
Right. No, I totally understand that.
But you got in trouble for research, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
Sometimes you research too much.
I do. I actually got called to the carpet by an employer for not moving forward with a project because I was still researching.
It's a sickness.
It is.
But there's some sicknesses we just don't want to be cured from.
Nope. I don't ever want to be cured of this. And I have to tell you, researching will throw you down a rabbit hole.
Oh, it is absolutely April's favorite form of procrastination.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
There's
it feels
no
so
doubt.
productive.
It does.
does.
It's not. Well, sometimes it is, but it's usually not.
There's
But
a
by
really
the time
funny-
it's procrastination, it's no longer productive.
There's this cliff edge that she often just does a running leap right off.
She's like, whee! And then she forgets that she
I
didn't
do.
have a cape to help her get down.
I know.
No
No,
capes.
no capes. But it also, you end up with a new hobby or you end up with a new book.
Yeah, well, that's true, and it kind of just sparks something new, and then that sparks something new, and that sends you into new things. So you rewrite your book like half a dozen times in the space of a few months. Not that any of us have ever done that. So the craft itself, though, what do you love about the craft?
Oh man,
Yeah, we didn't get to mention it before, I don't think, but we know how much Shatona loves words and
Yeah.
the shape of words, and she has an awesome quote that we'll get to
Yeah,
at some point.
other day.
But
yeah.
so she likes words. What is it you like about the craft?
so I do love the craft. And I
Nope.
love the craft for the craft and not because it's a means to an end, if that makes sense.
She loves the process of writing itself just because the process is so amazing, even if you don't end up with a book at the end.
Which is good. I bet that helps you stay sane.
As you rewrite your scene for the 50th time.
Yeah, that totally keeps me sane.
Maybe sane is a bit of a stretch, but
Less insane. Just a little less insane.
little less. Happy while you're insane? Whatever. I'll stop trying now.
Sever some heads! Oh.
I like understanding how structure allows me to get from point A to point B and being able to twist and poke and pull until I've created something new. I don't subscribe to any one particular story structure format. So Katie Weiland has her own format, the 7-point structure by...
Yeah, there's the 7-point structure. I know that from Dan Wells.
From
It
Dan
originally
Wells.
came from a RPG. I think it was a Star Trek RPG book. Anyway.
Right. And then and then of course you have the hero's journey, and there's about a gazillion more.
All right.
And they're all wonderful. You get to pick and choose, but the point is that you use it as a way to understand story, and you can figure out how we interpret story and how we as writers can create better stories. Which brings me actually to Charles DeLint. I don't know if you've ever heard of Charles DeLint, but he is a particularly wonderful writer. He writes fantasy, usually on the East Coast.
Yeah, the one you were talking about.
Right. He has a way of taking structure and words and making them into almost a lyric of a song. And it's dreamlike, and it can be terrifying, and it can be wonderful, and it's just, if I ever grow up, that's how I want to write. And that to me is like the epitome of writing.
The swing and sway of words.
The swing and sway of words. But he also takes all these wonderful different structures and he weaves them together. And to me, that's master storytelling.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I can't do that yet. Which is why I research.
Well, it's okay that you can't do that yet, because, you know, if you... I would argue that if suddenly you had absolutely everything that you wanted, that would get boring real quick.
That's true. You should always have more than one goal.
Yeah, I mean, in video games, as soon as God mode is enabled or something breaks the game, I get bored and I quit. But fortunately, I know you are just like the rest of us and will never be satisfied with what you are doing currently.
No, she won't. Which is why we're still waiting and waiting.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
I know that's something we've talked about. I'm sure we've talked about that before on the podcast, right? We have to have talked.
We have to.
Because this is something that, sorry, I'm turning it back into the whole introspection thing of the painful artist.
That's okay.
I really wish you could see Clark right now. It's awesome.
Emoting.
Yes, he's got, he's a superhero. It makes me think
Shakespeare.
of Megamind.
Yeah.
With the guy instead of being the hero, he goes, I want to be a musician, I want to be an artist.
Oh, that was Metro Man.
Yeah, that's the feel that I'm getting from Clark right now.
But, sorry, I'm going to have my one moment about, like, inner pain and struggling with that kind of stuff, and then we can move ahead. It's just... we have to remember that, so even if she got to that point where she was writing as well or better than DeLint was, she still wouldn't be happy. And something we all have to work on, it's one thing I'm going to preach, sorry, is you have to make sure you appreciate how far you've come, because even since I've known April, her prose have gotten a lot better. And sometimes it's like we're so focused on reaching the edge of the universe that we forget how far we've come from the sun.
That's such a brilliant.
That's a lovely quote.
It's just a really brilliant.
C.R. Rowanson, 2017.
Yeah, I'll make a quote image. You'll be able to get it in the show notes.
Okay, that's my moment of pain. I'm done.
Okay, so happy and rainbow farts. Go!
Yay!
Back to why writing is amazing. Yay!
Okay, so what else do you love about writing as far as the actual story?
I love twists and turns. I don't want it to be predictable. And of course, I'm writing cozy. I write cozy mysteries, but I also write fantasy. And both,
Wait. Cozy mysteries that aren't predictable?
Right. Which is really weird, right? You don't...
Very.
We're working to improve
No offense to the genre.
the cozy mystery experience is all.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't trying to be condescending.
No,
I thought
no,
part of
no.
the point of cozies was that they were one of those types where you know what you love.
No, there's a
So
structure
you're
to
just going by.
right.
There's a structure
to it, which is fine. But within the structure, you should be able to manipulate it enough that it makes it interesting and different. And I don't want to end up being just another book on the shelf.
Yeah, you don't want to be formulaic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
No,
gotcha.
there is a structure to it, but it doesn't have to be formulaic. There's also a narrower and a broader definition of cozy. One of the narrower ones would be it has to go in this order, but the broader would just be you're not going to have a gruesome description of the actual bloody severed headed corpse. You're not. I know. Sorry, Clark. Don't cry.
She never lets that go.
No, I don't. But you know what I mean? Clark would not handle that well. He wants the bloodied.
So I derailed things a little bit. Sorry, you were talking about cozies and the type of stuff you write.
Yes, that's okay.
And the twists and turns.
And twists and turns, and being able to bring in my interests as well as just things that I've learned through research. Thank you very much.
Well, what's the point if you can't share it, right?
Exactly. I think it makes a better book, and it makes me a better writer in general. And I want to do that with fantasies, working on magic systems and making sure it's integral to the story, but it's unusual enough to catch your attention and not know where it's going.
Ooh, I'll help with that.
I know you will.
Yay.
And he will make it awesome.
Yes, he will. So we're at the tail end of our podcast. I know.
Out of time already?
We
Okay.
are. But Spotlight today is a book that I really enjoy, and I suggest that all authors take a look at it at least once. And it's called The Way of the Writer, Reflections on the Art and Craft of Storytelling by Charles Johnson.
Link in the show notes.
He is a winner of the National Book Award. He taught 30 years of creative writing at university. The book itself is really wonderful. It has lots of information that we could all use to better ourselves as writers.
All right, that goes in the Amazon cart. Ding.
So what we would like you to do, dear listeners, is go buy some of April's books so she can buy more pens.
Yes, yeah, bye.
Please do. Then she can stop taking our money.
Yeah. That's where it went.
All right. This has been enough deformation of character.
Thank you.
This has been Alive in Writing. Sometimes that's all you've got, but it's all you really need. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.